I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Community Forum. Each and every week we bring you information, inspiration, and engagement. We want you to get involved in this movement for social justice. We want you to make sure that you have been counted for the census. We only have one more week to go. Make sure that you filled out your census form. We want you to be registered and ready to vote. Some states have already started early voting. We want you to get ready to vote and make sure that you know you're going from the top of the ticket, which is voting for president, vice president, U.S. Senate, all the way down. You want to vote for your state legislators that are running across the country. Then you want to move from the state level to the county level. Some counties electing state's attorneys or district attorneys. We know that in Cook County, for example, our state's attorney is running for re-election. There are other people running for the office of state's attorney. Then you move down to local elections. Judges are running for election. Make sure that you don't stop at the top of the ballot. And then there's some referenda on the ballot. We'll be talking more and more about this. Today, you will hear from some of our satellite office reports. You'll hear from our international affairs director. You'll hear from Atlanta. We want you to get ready. Reverend Jackson's birthday is coming. October 8th is his actual birthday. Get ready. Our goal is he wants 10,000 new members for his birthday. You can help us. If you're not already a member, you can join right now. You can go to rainbowpush.org. You can text the word PUSH to 41444, or you can just mail us a membership application, or you can call us 773-256-2775 or 773-FREEDOM on your phone. We want to celebrate Rosh Hashanah with our Jewish brothers and sisters. It's one of the high holy days, and we're praying for your health and your strength during this season of Rosh Hashanah. Also, we dedicate this broadcast today to one of the leading justices, one of the most committed justices that has ever served on the United States Supreme Court, our own Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and you'll hear a little bit more about her from our national chairman of the Rainbow Push Coalition, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. You stay in tune, you get involved, don't turn that dial, stay right where you are. We have a lot to share with you today.
Today is a very important day. My Kaya Moore turned 5 months. It is so important that I take the necessary steps now that will impact her future. In the last 10 years, Illinois alone lost $35 million in funding. That's because 35,000 little black-brown babies were not included in that count. Education means the world to me, especially for my daughter. If the resources are not available, she loses. Your baby loses. Mom and Dad, we can do this. It's so important that we include our babies in the count. Make those numbers count. Numbers matter. Complete the census today. Right, Kai? For her future.
Greetings, my friends. This is Pastor Joseph Bryan Jr. I am the director of Push Tech 2020 and our Silicon Valley Bay Area office for the Rainbow Push Coalition. It is a blessing to be with you again, to share with you all of the wonderful things that God is allowing us to do under the vision of our phenomenal leader, Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. This has been another fantastic week of work. We've been able to open up our community learning hub this week. It has been fantastic to be able to open our doors and to be able to extend invitation to students of at-risk families to come in and have access to Zoom, access to computers, access to technology, and access to tutors as they go through the educational process. So many of our children are being forced to stay home alone. And so in our community, we've been able to open our doors to students so they can come in and have a supervised environment that is appropriate to our COVID-19 regulations. They are here supported every single day. And we're grateful for our partnership with the Office of Mayor of San Francisco, London Breed, as well as the Department of Children and Families. Also, our partnership with the Good Samaritan Foundation. We are so grateful to be able to reach families in that way. Also, this week, we've continued our food service program. We've now provided meals for over 5,000 households since we have been in this pandemic, as well as over 1,000 families have received groceries from us. And I mean big portions of groceries where we give them produce and meat and cheese and all the kind of things they would need to eat for a month, literally, and fresh vegetables and canned goods. And so we're grateful for being able to provide that type of support. And many of you I saw this week during our virtual town hall for our Connected Churches program, Faith Tech. And so we've been able to train pastors and churches and leaders. We've also done some independent trainings with some of the churches around the country, as well as one-on-ones right here with those that are doing work for their churches, training our seniors, still making sure they're up to speed, being able to utilize technology. And so all this comes as a result of Reverend Jackson's vision for us to engage Silicon Valley. And that is a part of what we call our Push Tech 2020 program. And the Push Tech 2020 conference is coming up. And so we want you to register today for the Push Tech 2020 Summit. It's going to be incredible. Even though it's virtual this year, what it does, it makes it available for all of you, wherever you are in the country and wherever you are in the world. You can join us for this year's Push Tech 2020 conference. Is going to be amazing. We're going to have a fantastic lineup, and we just want you to register today. Get your spot while it's hot and make sure that you are ready for Push Tech 2020 conference, October 22nd and 23rd. And we're even doing a special session for students on the 24th. Join us there. Go to our website, rainbowpush.org or rainbowpushsv for siliconvalley.org. Be there with us. We'll continue to do the work. We thank God for Reverend Jackson. We thank God for you.
Hello, I'm Attorney Robert Patil. I'm the Executive Director of the Rainbow Push Coalition Southeast Region in the Atlanta office here in Atlanta, Georgia. I want to give you guys a quick update on many of the things that we are working on here in Atlanta. All of us have heard all the public health warnings saying that we will not be safe until there is an effective vaccine, which is rolled out nationwide to prevent a continued spike and continued outbreaks of coronavirus. On October 5th, we will be having the fourth part of our healthcare town hall series with Dr. Anthony Fauci, who's part of the coronavirus task force. He is the person who is the leading expert in the world, in fact, on containing the spread of pandemics and these viruses. And we'll be having a conversation with us on October the 5th at 2 p.m. With our panel to discuss particularly how this works for the African-American community. So we want to ensure that those of us who live in the regular world, in the regular community, are fully taken care of and have full access to all the medical advancements that are going on currently. Additionally, the Rainbow Push at Atlanta will be holding our 21st annual Creating Opportunities Conference on October 8th and 9th. This year will be a virtual conference that will take place over Zoom. You'll be able to register at rainbowpushatlanta.org and also rainbowpush.org. And the reason it's important to bring together these diverse sets is that our community is never hit with simply one storm at a time. We are never dealing with one fight. So while we're also fighting against a pandemic, which disproportionately affects the African-American community, we're fighting against an economic depression where 60 million people are out of work, which is particularly hard hitting the Black community, as our unemployment rate is always double what the general population's unemployment rate is. For more information on these, as I said, visit us at rainbowpushatlanta.org. Follow us on social media. Feel free to email myself, rpatillo at rainbowpush.org, or Trina Heathington, Heathington at rainbowpush.org, our program coordinator for the Atlanta office. And as always, keep hope alive.
Good morning. We are in the midst of a major drive to get more members, more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those incarcerated, change the policies that impact students attending colleges and universities. If you want to be a policymaker, then you need to join Rainbow Push and join by paying your $35 right now. Some of you watch us every week. You listen to us on the radio. You're viewing us in social media. We need you to become a member. It's only $35 a year. If you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, we've awarded more than $10 million to scholars year to date. What do you have to do to give and support PUSH? It's really very simple. You can go to rainbowpush.org if you're on a computer and press donate. Give any amount. Every dollar is important. You want to talk to somebody, call us at 773-256-2775. You can give right now, any denomination that you choose. You can text the word PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. Text on your cell phone. Most of you have a cell phone. Just text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444, and you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving. Or call us 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and just press donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
Zunächst möchte ich mich bei Jesse Jackson bedanken und ich freue mich und danke ihm dafür, dass ich heute zu Ihnen sprechen kann. Jesse Jackson war am 2. August in Auschwitz mit mir. Auschwitz ist das Symbol für die industriemäßige Ermordung von 500.000 Sinti und Roma und 6 Millionen Juden. Es war ein Zivilisationsbruch. Und nach dem Ende des Zweiten Weltkriegs haben die Vereinten Nationen und viele Länder gesagt, nie wieder Auschwitz, nie wieder Rassismus. Wir erleben heute in Amerika eine neue Form von Rassismus. Und ich möchte hier von dieser Stelle von Deutschland aus der Rainbow Push Organisation meine Solidarität ausdrücken. Wir sehen mit großer Sorge die Gewalt, die sich gegen Menschen richtet, weil sie eine andere Hautfarbe haben. Rassismus ist ein Erreger und die Menschheit hat bis heute kein Immunsystem dafür gefunden. Mit großer Sorge sehe ich die Entwicklung aber auch in Deutschland. In Deutschland gibt es eine neue Form von Nationalismus. Übrigens gibt es in ganz Europa, in vielen Ländern, wo Populisten und Rassisten wieder Sündenböcke verantwortlich machen für eine Krise, die sie entweder selbst verursacht haben oder die sie hochpushen, um ihre Macht zu erhalten und die Ängste der Menschen für sich zu benutzen. Corona, diese Pandemie, ist, und das wissen wir aus der Geschichte, Pest und Cholera in den vergangenen Jahrhunderten. Dafür wurden immer Minderheiten verantwortlich gemacht. Und dafür wurden sie verfolgt und es gab sogar die Scheiterhaufen in Europa. In diesem Zusammenhang ist mir nochmals wichtig, auch auf die menschenunwürdige Situation in Osteuropa hinzuweisen. Die Pandemie, Corona, hat diese Situation verstärkt. Die Menschen leben in menschenunwürdigen Zuständen. Sie sind von der Gesellschaft vollkommen ausgeschlossen. Sie gehen, wie das früher in den Vereinigten Staaten in den 20er Jahren waren, in Sonderschulen. Eine Form von Apartheid, die sich im gesamten gesellschaftlichen Leben zeigt. Da muss die Welt verstärkt hingucken. Das ist das, was der Welt, der freien Welt, Sorge bereiten sollte. Wir haben die Apartheid in Südafrika überwunden. Wir dürfen sie jetzt nicht in Europa zulassen.
Roma, as the biggest minority in Europe, have been affected dramatically by the COVID-19 pandemic because of the access of health, education and housing. And for instance, very often Roma communities, especially in Eastern Europe, do not have access to clean water. We also could see how difficult the digital education are for Roma youngsters, and this was one of our main mission, to support those youngsters to have at least a good understanding how they could still be part of the education, because very often they don't even have access to electricity in their houses or in their homes.
Things have only been made worse by the pandemic and the emergency measures which were introduced across Europe. Racist police officers, knowing that they can operate in the dark, that the world is blind, that what they're doing, have been brutalizing Romani people with impunity during lockdown. For a Black American audience, no doubt this is depressingly familiar to you. But while in Europe we have been watching the violence against Black people by police officers in America, we have also been inspired by watching the rise of the Black Lives Matter message. It has become a truly global protest, and I think it has changed the way that people think about how minorities interact with the state. For example, Romani communities, Romani families who have been victims of racist police violence have now started getting their phone out and filming the incident and uploading it to social media, despite police officers threatening them what'll happen if they do that. There has been great solidarity between Romani and Black people here in Europe, uniting under the banner of Black Lives Matter. One day, hopefully, there will be similar protests in every single European capital calling for equal Roma rights too.
Die Pandemie sucht sich nicht Rassen aus, in Anführungszeichen, wie es manchmal von anderen dargestellt hat. Sie sucht sich Menschen aus. Und wir müssen das in Anspruch nehmen, was wir heute haben. Wir haben Demokratien und wir müssen wählen. Wir müssen die demokratischen Parteien wählen und wir dürfen uns nicht von Populisten und von falschen Hetzmeldungen und Hetzpropaganda verführen lassen. Nochmals, unsere Solidarität gehört unseren Brüdern und Schwestern in Amerika.
Hello, my name is Dr. Deborah Verholden, and on behalf of the Rainbow Push Coalition, I'd like to talk to you today about school reopening. I'm an epidemiologist and the Associate Dean for Public Health Integration at the Michigan State University College of Medicine campus in Flint, Michigan. I want to discuss the benefits of in-person education, the challenges with virtual education, the considerations for safely returning to in-person instruction, and review considerations for families when making the decision to participate in virtual learning versus in-person education. Some of the benefits of in-person education include the established quality and effectiveness of in-person academic instruction, academic support plans, including those for students with special needs and students who need special accommodations. There are also much needed social, emotional, and therapeutic supports for students from peers, teachers, and other support staff available in our schools. Increased physical activity and ongoing opportunities for our great students to move their arms and legs are also important. Some of the challenges that we're facing with virtual learning models include a widening of the educational disparities. We have technology barriers to at-home learning support, including access to school-based learning and support services, language barriers, and the tremendous financial and psychological stress that the COVID-19 pandemic and virtual learning has placed on families. Safe reopening will also require some additional supports within the school environment and minimally should include self-screening for students and school staff, face coverings, and personal protective equipment, hand hygiene protocols, and adequate supplies to ensure that students, staff, and faculty have what they need to stay safe. This is also the time to be creative and equitable and consider alternatives like staggered in-person schedules to ensure that the proper provisions can be made within the schools and in other areas like transportation, which are essential to ensuring a safe return to school. This is a special call to action for college students. Honoring the protocols is vital. We recognize this is a tough time for many of us, and you did not plan to spend your college years in isolation. Now, however, more than ever, it's important that we each do all that we can to keep ourselves, our friends, our families, our loved ones, and our community safe. So please mask up, practice good hand hygiene, honor the protocols, and do your part to help us weather this storm. In summary, there are numerous benefits to in-person education and also some challenges with virtual learning. Students should return to in-person education only when it's safe to do so and the appropriate medical and public health protections and provisions are in place. School reopening and preparations will require resources, funding, and planning. The return to school, families, it's your choice to make. Please get the information and do what makes sense for you and your family so that you can make an informed decision. On behalf of the Rainbow Push Coalition, I'm Dr. Deborah Verholden. Everybody stay safe.
Good morning, everyone. My name is C.K. Hoffler, and I am chairman of the board, or chairwoman of the board, of the internationally recognized, renowned organization, Rainbow Push Coalition. It is indeed an honor for me to be here today as the attorney I've been Reverend Jackson's attorney for 32 years and have had the pleasure of working with these organizations. And it is such a great honor to welcome this magnificent panel. And Reverend Jackson, I'm going to introduce you, even though you need no introduction, because there's not a way, there's not a day, there's not a moment that passes that we cannot not recognize that each of us, even as officers of the court, African American, Latino, Latina, Asian American, and people in this world stand on your shoulders because of the fight that you have had to launch for all of us for decades. So we salute you. But I wanted to welcome everybody to this wonderful panel. These panelists are first in their respective communities. And today, because of what's happening around us, because of the climate in this country, we felt it only fitting to talk about policing, to talk about law enforcement, to talk about police unions, and to talk about the impact that each one of our magnificent panels has had in their community and the challenges. So against that backdrop, I want to just say a word for us to really recognize one of our fallen sheroes, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Ginsburg, who passed recently. She was a purveyor of justice, a fighter, one of my sheroes. She fought for equality. She was a big fan of Reverend Jesse Jackson, Rainbow Push, and all of our efforts. So we salute her, and we know that she's resting in peace. And she fought and held on until she could fight no more. So we must pick up the mantle. So against that backdrop, Reverend Jackson, I'd like to just say a few words about you. You've been fighting for 6 decades in this space for racial equality, racial justice, social justice, so that African Americans, Latinos, and people of color could walk through corporate doors and could break through glass ceilings. For women, for men, for children, for the least of these, we thank you for all of your fights and that you were able to assemble and a panel that has this kind of a panel that has the first of so many is because of you as a human being, as a civil rights activist. So there's a famous Portuguese expression that I think is appropriate to begin our discussion. It is, a luta continua, vitória é certa. It means the struggle continues, but victory is certain. So when I think about Kim Fox, the state attorney for Cook County, who runs an office of over 800 attorneys, 1,500 employees, the first of the first of the first. When I think of the struggle and the fight that she's faced outside protesters coming to defeat her in Cook County, we are honored to really to support her and to let her know. And now I'm speaking as also president of the National Bar Association. You're one of my members. We support you. In fact, all of you, including Ms. Valdez, we support you. And that's what today is about. They were facing 3 pandemics, COVID-19, election suppression, and police brutality. So I'd like to direct my first question to the Cook County State Attorney, Kim Foxx, and I'd like you to discuss just with for our viewers, your journey and some of the issues that you've confronted with gun violence, given the very courageous positions that you take.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me on this panel. Thank you, Reverend Jackson, for just being a steadfast leader for the last 60 years, so my entire lifetime. And since I've been in office, I have not had a crisis in which the Reverend has not called me and held my hand through it and prayed with me. And so I'm honored. And for my fellow colleagues who are on the call, many of whom I consider to be family, my sisters, Kim and Marilyn, and for the others that I've not yet had an opportunity to meet personally, thank you for being on the panel with us. And to Erica, the head of the NBPA, who works in our office and has done amazing things. It's just an honor to be with you all. It has been a journey, to say the least, for those who did not know the history of the assassination of Fred Hampton, that it was in fact orchestrated through the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and that legacy that has hung with this office for the past 50 years. I came into office in 2016, a year in which we were reckoning with the police killing of Laquan McDonald, a 17-year-old boy who was pumped with 16 bullets as he lay on the ground. That had come in the wake of the work that Maryland had done in Baltimore and the death of Freddie Gray, or what Kim had seen in Ms. Ferguson with the death of Mike Brown. All of those instances were happening as I was coming into office, as Maryland had just gotten there, as Kim had come into office. And so 2020 feels eerily reminiscent to me. Eerily reminiscent that we have seen this repetition of Black death at the hands of law enforcement and communities crying out for change. It's also eerily reminiscent in that 2016 was the bloodiest year we'd had in Chicago since 1999. And in fact, 2020, we are outpacing 2016. And people would say to you that when you're dealing with the issue of violence, the gun violence that we're seeing in Chicago, that you cannot concern yourself with criminal justice reform. You cannot concern yourself with the issues that got you here around police accountability, that there is a hijacking of the conversation around justice reform and what we're seeing in our streets. I've spent the last couple of weeks talking more about property damage, which is important. We ought to be talking about, and not enough talking about the structures that need to be in place to ensure that we don't revisit where we are in these times. And so when I came into office in 2016, much like as I run for re-election now, it has been on the premise of keeping our communities safe and having a criminal justice system that is fair and equitable. Because the truth is, people will not engage in our justice system if they don't believe that it has legitimacy. That in the neighborhoods that have the highest levels of violence, they are probably those who are least likely to call the police. They would much rather handle it themselves if they believe that they don't know if they're going to get a Jason Van Dyke, the type of police officer who killed Laquan McDonald, or Sergeant Watts, who was shaking down drug dealers in the Ida B. Wells public housing project, planting drugs, planting guns, that if their experience with law enforcement has been so fractured that when violence occurs in the community, they would rather deal with it themselves, we're going to be in this perpetual silence or cycle of violence. And so we can't separate dealing with public safety and the integrity of our justice system. They go hand in hand. And so when we're seeing what we're seeing in the streets right now, and we see violence up across the country, it's not just Chicago. I'm sure my colleagues can tell you where they live, they're also seeing it. And if we continue to have this half conversation around what do we do about violence and not do anything around criminal justice reform, we're going to keep revisiting this. And so we've done things like, go after wrongful convictions, rebuilding our conviction integrity unit, vacating over 100 convictions just in the last 3.5 years. We've done things like work for marijuana legalization. And I'm not condoning marijuana use, but what I know is that when John Boehner can now sit on the board of a marijuana company and now make millions of dollars while people who live in impacted neighborhoods have convictions on their records, I can't sit with that. And so we baked into our law the ability to have those convictions automatically expunged. We also stopped going after people for low-level, nonviolent offenses. And that's because, to me, how do I justify to that mother who's trying to find what happened to the killer of her child that we spend more resources going after low-level retail theft than we do after guns? And so we created the first of its kind gun crime strategies unit, placing our assistance in neighborhoods impacted by violence. I'm so proud to be on this panel with Erica, like I said, from our office, who is a pioneer in that work, where we've seen a dramatic reduction where we place our assistance. And so that comes with a little strife, a little pushback. The police unions have made no bones about their disdain for me. You talk about the march on my office on April 1st, 2019, over 150 members of the Fraternal Order of Police and their supporters, including 4 white nationalist groups, including members of QAnon, showed up at my office attempting to run me out of town. And they made no bones about why they were there. They claimed it was about one celebrity case, but they told the truth, that it was about my reforms on bail reform. It was about my efforts on marijuana. It was about my efforts on low-level convictions, that I wasn't acting in the way that they wanted their state's attorney to act. And I'll end with this. I didn't get into this role to rubber stamp practices and policies of the Fraternal Order of Police. I got into this role to keep our community safe.
Let's turn to Camelia Valdez. You're the first Latina county prosecutor in the state of New Jersey, and as a Passaic, New Jersey. You have Dominican heritage. You're a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha.
My journey here was an improbable journey. I was sitting at the U.S. Attorney's office, working for then U.S. Attorney Chris Christie, minding my own business, trying cases, and dealing with the fact that I'm a special needs mom. I have 2 beautiful autistic daughters, and I was navigating that whole spectrum. And so when the opportunity came to be approached for this opportunity, I really didn't think it would happen. In New Jersey, all county prosecutors and our attorney general are appointed, so we don't run. It was an unlikely proposition for then Governor Corzine, a Democrat, to appoint someone who was working for, who would be his opponent. But, here we are. And by way of background, I came to the position because I was born in the Bronx and raised in Newark as a daughter of Dominican immigrants. And the Bronx, like Newark, wonderful, culturally rich societies, communities that have its share of issues, violence, addiction, poverty, gender bias, things that we seldom don't talk about. So my path here really has been to serve. And I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha and sit on so many different boards and organizations because I find that as a law enforcement official, we need to work in collaboration with other groups to be able to, first of all, deal with the loneliness and the isolation of being a person of color, dealing with these issues, dealing with difficult issues where when I was first appointed in 2009, I was 38 years old. And I came into the position to deal with chiefs of police and members of law enforcement that had been police officers longer than I had been alive. And the initial shock of, this girl, really, now being the chief law enforcement official in Passaic County, it was a learning curve for them. It was a learning curve for me. I now have had the opportunity to sit in this seat for 11 years. And any type of criminal justice reform and victim advocacy, I have been able to sit at that table.
It seems like it's been forever since we lost our dear brother, Freddie Gray. And since there was that discussion, but it's only been 5 years. And our next sister who we're going to bring on was at the helm and handled that whole situation, the indictments with professionalism, by the law. She did what she needed to do. under a lot of criticism. She was so young. She's still very young. You know, I'd say I'm y'all's age, but the reality is, if I've been representing a reverend for 32 years, I can't be 37. In my mind, but I can't be. But Marilyn Mosby just took charge. And when we saw her on the international stage doing what so many couldn't do, sometimes you want to do it, but you have to have the facts and law, just couldn't do. That was a moment of glory, and we have to call it what it is. So, Marilyn, we thank you and salute you for what you've done, what you continue to do every single day. And we'd like to talk to you a little bit about what it was like for you, what it continues to be like for you. Having taken that bold move in your community when you had so much adversity nationally, police unions on your back, and threats. If you could share with the viewers and the listeners what that experience was and what your thoughts are going forward in your city.
So first and foremost, I just want to say thank you, CK. I appreciate all of the work that you do. As you started this whole session, recognizing and acknowledging the Reverend Jesse Jackson, what I've always understood and what I constantly reiterate, Kim, both my Kims will tell you, Kim Fox and Kim Gardner, that it's always been greater than me, right? Like, it was never about Marilyn Mosby. It's about what Marilyn Mosby represents to dismantling this racist criminal justice system. And so I stand on the shoulders of Reverend Jesse Jackson, and I just want to say thank you for all that you've done. And I would be remiss. And Erica, I love you. I appreciate all that you do. Camila, thank you. You are representing. We are people of color. We are one. We need to recognize that. But I think when we look at also just the moment that we're in, CK, right now, right? Like, after the tragic loss of an iconic Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was the architect, I mean, literally the architect of the elimination of gender discrimination in this country. Her death in and of itself changes the balance of power in the Supreme Court. And what is on the ballot right now is justice. And what I can tell you, what that means for not just us, but for our children and potentially our grandchildren, is justice is literally on the ballot in what is one of the most critical elections of our lifetime. And so before I speak about what justice looks like and what my experience was, I can tell you what justice does not look like, right? Justice does not look like failing to put on a turn signal and ending up dead. Justice does not look like allegedly selling loose cigarettes and ending up dead. Justice does not look like allegedly passing a $20 bill during a global pandemic for groceries and ending up dead. And so, you know, justice isn't the refusal to see the humanity of Black people in this country. And so when I look at what's happening in this moment and in this time, Black people in this country, we're utterly sickened. We're Kim Gardner, Kim Fox, we're on a text thread, and we are utterly sickened by time and time again, the murders of Black people on camera at the hands of the police. And so what is this moment right now? I'm incredibly encouraged. I'm scared, right? Like, I need us to understand the importance of mobilization and getting out and voting and getting this man who has shown us the ability of changing the course of our country in a matter of 4 years. He has taken regression to a whole nother point. So I'm encouraged that, you know, according to the AP polls, the veil of ignorance has been lifted from Americans in this country, particularly white Americans, regarding race relations and police brutality against Black people in this country, and that our perceptions have, in essence, shifted and changed since 5 years ago. As you have highlighted, 5 years ago, it was a mere 5 years ago, since I charged police officers with the death of an innocent 25-year-old Black man who made eye contact with police in a high crime neighborhood, who was unconstitutionally arrested, placed into a metal wagon, head first, feet shackled and handcuffed, and whose pleas, after his spine was partially severed in the back of that wagon, his pleas for medical attention were ignored. I'm encouraged that those perceptions have been shifted. I'm encouraged that Black Lives Matter is no longer a controversial term, right? Where people are now recognizing that in order for every life to matter, ours has to matter as well. But we have so much more work to do. And so I think that in this moment, you know, when we talk about the progressive prosecutor movement, where you have prosecutors like my sisters, and not just in law, but my sisters in life, Kim Gardner and Kim Foxx, you know, we're succeeding because voters, the community, both of them just got reelected overwhelmingly. I got reelected overwhelmingly, right? Voters are paying attention to these races when previously we were just going in and electing these individuals with these tough on crime approaches. 79% of the individuals making the decisions in this country are white males. 95% of the prosecutors in this country are white. We represent a mere 1% of all elected prosecutors of color. That's unacceptable. And so what is this moment speaking to? I think that it's time. We got work to do. We have a lot of work to do, but I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged because with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we understand that she's passed the baton and the mantle of justice, and the fight is now on us.
We have the birthplace of the civil rights movement, where Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a Black man. And here we have the district attorney for the largest county in Alabama, Danny Carr.
Thank you for including me in this discussion. And I've watched Kim Gardner and Kim Foxx and Marilyn Mosby and all of those three strong African-American women leading the way. And Camellia, it's wonderful to hear your story. But I'm getting goosebumps here because I made sure my daughter, who just graduated from Auburn University, is about to start law school. I wanted her to hear this and to see these women and to understand that, you know, don't ever let anybody tell you what you can or can't do and how strong you can or can't be just because you're a woman who's an African-American woman. So let me just first say thank you to all of the women on here who are leading the way. And Reverend Jackson, thank you. I'm down here in the deep South in Alabama. I'm just a blue dot in a big red state. And I'm here because I'm standing on the shoulders of men like you.
Now, next we have a bad sister. We just have to call it what it is. A bad sister who took on the governor of Missouri. I mean, she just took on the governor, blaming her for the city of St. Louis homicide. And she went ahead and just said, no, enough is enough. Yeah. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. It ain't going to happen no more. I'm done, through. Talk to the hand, all of that. And she did it with such grace. And every single day, when I saw Kimberly Gardner on TV, because she was on TV all the time, I felt like saying power to the people, just walking up in the morning and just, you know what I mean? How you feel that way. Actually, I felt that way about all of y'all. When I saw you all, when I've seen you all on TV fighting the fight, to take on the police unions like you all have, and to sue the police unions. And we know the life threats that go along with doing the things that you all do every day. But to just take on the state and the governor, and Mound City Bar was behind you, and to do the things that you've done, to be the first African-American circuit attorney in St. Louis, where you practiced, and just to do all the things that you've done, Kimberly Gardner, we just want to hear from you.
I just want to say I'm humbled and honored to be here with everyone, Reverend Jesse Jackson, my sisters in the struggle, Mr. Danny Carr, Ms. Valdez, Erica. But what we need to really pay attention while we're in this moment in time, we have to pay attention to, you know, not just we as African-American female reform-minded prosecutors, but we actually have to understand that we can't do this alone. You know, everybody says it's not about us, and I support what Marilyn Mosby is saying. It's not about us. But what it's about is the human dignity and respect that we as prosecutors bring to our discretion, that many people challenge that look like us, that actually don't look like us, and sit on the sidelines and critique us and tell us that we're somehow the strange being because we choose to apply the law equally and just and fairly for everyone. This is not just our laws apply to Black people. Our laws apply to everyone. And I hope that the legal community that we know is very conservative, whether you're Black or white, within it. And everybody wants to figure out a way to get somewhere, to become something. But to me, we have to be true thought leaders and actually leaders in doing what's right. And one of the things, this was hard for me to do because I see my sisters like Marilyn Mosby and my sister Kim Fox, who go through so much that they're not even telling you. They tell you in little ways that I had feces mailed to my office this last week because it's a normal day for us. And people say it's not about us. But what I don't like is when I have people, and I'm not talking to these people on the panel, say that, how can we help? How can you help is do the right thing. And if you think racism is okay, then I shouldn't have to tell you where we're going. You should know where we're going when we're the first. Because we have Reverend Jesse Jackson, who paved the way for us, and many of the people like him who made it possible for us to sit in these roles. But if we do not have people fighting the same way they fought back in the day to allow us to be here, we have another fight that's hidden. You can't see the enemy. The enemy looks just like you. The enemy talks like you. They stand next to you and they smile in your face, all the while they're undermining you. And one of the things that's most disgusting that I think right now in this period of time, we have powerful people who choose to attack African-American female reform-minded prosecutors. And actually, we have people come to our house and tell us we should be dead, dragged in the streets. Our bodies should be hung with nooses with the KKK. This is normal in Missouri, and we know Alabama, but Missouri, Chicago, Baltimore, we also have people hiding by this COVID-19 pandemic, that more people are suffering. More people are unemployed. More people are talking about violent crime. And they're using this COVID-19 pandemic, that all the health disparities, all the broken systems that we already know exist are highlighted even more now. And they're blaming us. So I hope these like-minded legal entities here, reverends and pastors and people who want to get into this comfortable conversation, we need boots on the ground people fighting day to day with us, because I'm in those rooms where I'm the only female. I'm in those rooms where I'm the only woman. I'm in those rooms where I have people of color who are on my police department, and they look and they sound the same way as these police unions that no one wants to call out. No. And everybody's scared. We have prosecutors who are held hostage by the local investigative agency because they tell you, like they told me, I'm going to make you lose your livelihood. I'm going to make sure you are going to lose your bar license. They told me if I do my job, they're going to make sure they make my life a living hell. So I hope, I'm sorry, Reverend, I know we got pastors on here. Sorry for saying hell. But I just want to say, I need people who aren't afraid, because everybody got a law license. They not trying to do this work. Because everybody talk about we want to be with the Black prosecutors. No, they don't. Because they get in these courtrooms and these judges talk to them sideways and they run. And they go into somewhere where they can do less work and get more money. If you really want to do this struggle, then you will come to our offices and work. You will do the hard work, and you're not going to sit there and be scared to speak truth to power, because a lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are afraid. They're not doing this work. They don't want to do this work because guess what? It's easier to sit there and to have somebody pat you on the back and say, do a good job so you can become a judge, or eventually you might become a prosecutor because you just sit there in silence and you become part of the status quo. But I'm not doing it. I'm going to fight. And if you hear about me going to jail, hopefully one of y'all bail me out on this call, because I don't care. I'm not backing down. I'm telling the truth, because my law license is for justice, is for human rights and dignity, and I'm not backing down no way, no how. Thank you.
Go St. Louis, go St. Louis, go St. Louis, go St. Louis.
I do think that I was born under a very bright star.
I, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. I am a Brooklynite, born and bred.
I love my job. It's the best and the hardest job that I have ever had. It has kept me going through 4 cancer bouts. I have to read this set of briefs, go over the draft opinion, and so I have to somehow surmount whatever is going on in my body. Because I'm a public figure, I could help make things a little better for people who are in my situation. Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. If you want to be a true professional, you will do something outside yourself, something to make life a little better for people less fortunate than you. A meaningful life is one lives not just for oneself, but for one's community.
They used to say we were just 3/5 of a man, and we had to fight to be fully recognized. Back then, being counted meant marches, pickets, jail cells, and worse. One way you can show we count in less than 10 minutes is to take the 2020 census. Be a warrior for your community. Be counted and make certain adequate funds and political representation are allocated to your state and your neighborhood. Just select one of these easy options. By phone, call 844-330-2020, online at mycensus2020.gov, or simply mail in your survey. Never forget, you are somebody. Don't delay. Take the census today.
I am somebody.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few of jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did, and what we did, and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, about Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the US, but around the world.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select Push for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away.
Join the movement. Join Rainbow Push.